Today we're going to talk about starting research. So last class we talked basically about what does a research paper look like. Now we're going to start talking about how to get started on that research paper. Okay, Muhammad?
Here.
Abdulaziz?
Here.
Muhammad, are you feeling better yet?
Yes, I feel it too.
No coughing on the rest of us today?
I hope not.
I hope not too. Okay. Keisha? Marlon? Eddie? We know Eddie's in trouble. He is. Michael?
Here.
Devontae? Why is he in trouble? Because we told him to be here on time, or else we were all going to kick him in the shin when he came in. And he said, I promise, I'll be here on time. Is Devontae here on time? Nope. He's getting it too. Kelly? Here. Khalif?
Here.
Ben?
Here.
D'Angelo?
Here.
Elizabeth? Here. Deborah? Kwame?
Here.
Taylor? Amber? Spencer?
Here.
Ariana?
Here.
Chelsea?
Here.
Samantha? Janisha? Brennan? Hi, Brennan. 8 people asked it. It's not okay, is it? Go get your friends.
Right now, we'll do it.
Make it a minute.
See, I could
I said I was going to lock the door, but I have a feeling that a couple people are going to come in. Okay, so last class we talked about chapter 24. We're going to talk about last class we talked about chapter 13. Today we're going to talk about chapter 24. But before we dive into chapter 24, got a little something up for grabs.
You're coming on time?
You know, I should give it to you for coming on time, but you should come on time anyways. True. Who can tell me what the thesis statement does? So here's the rules. You can only answer one time, and you have to raise your hand.
Got turned around in the building.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
What a thesis statement does, I feel like I saw Ben's hand first. Unless you want to arm wrestle real quick for it. Paper, rock, scissors. All right, paper, rock, scissors, go. Paper, rock, scissors. Oh, okay. Ben got it. All right, Ben, what does the thesis statement do for a research paper?
answer the research question.
Boom, you got it. It's only $1, don't worry. You can come back. You can come back. Okay, who remembers the name of the triangle that I wrote on the board?
Yes.
Were you even here, Abdulaziz?
Yeah, internet.
Abdulaziz had his hand up. What?
Internet library.
Okay, but what's the word for the triangle?
The
name of it?
yeah, triangle.
Yeah. Say it loud and proud.
Yeah,
You got it.
triangulate.
Triangulate. Okay, you got it. Triangulate. Okay, so the three corners of the triangle are what? Raise your hand. You got it?
Library.
Uh-huh.
Internet.
Uh-huh. Ooh, that's gonna get you. Ooh, it's gonna get you.
Paper.
No paper.
My research,
Yes.
my interview like this.
Yes. Okay, you got it, but let's see who can help you out with that. You totally got it. My own interviews, my own observations.
Yeah.
What's that word, Brennan? Bing. You got it.
I said it right. You heard.
Bring it, bring it, bring it. We're doing good. We're doing good. So I might have some more up for grabs. But we've made some money today. We feel good, right? All right, so get those textbooks out so you can follow along. Chapter 24. Ooh, I think I got one more question brewing. What are the two different types of research papers? Oh, Kelly?
Yeah.
You kind of like,
Is it argument?
and?
What was it? Argument.
Come on. You got it, you got it, you got it. Girl, what kind of research papers? Not research is a research paper.
No, athletic.
She got it. She got it. I know, Kwame, you gotta work a little faster than that. Good job.
Said chapter 2.
23. Did I say chapter?
You said 24.
24. 24. Let's go with 24. Page 466. Okay, so there's three things that this chapter is designed to do. Three things that we should feel confident about by the time we finish this PowerPoint. How to develop a dependable research process. So that word research process is what we're focusing on. That will help you inquire into the topics that interest you. So our topic is money, but it can be anything about money that really interests you, that you can go out and you can explore. So when I was an undergrad, I was able to do a research paper, and guess what? I researched money and how much journalists made. I changed my major. Because I'm like, oh, they make $12,000 a year? Skirt.
What's the journal?
Yeah. Yeah. So your research paper could be anything about money that interests you. Devise a research plan for your projects that allow you to stay on a schedule and keep track of your sources. Ben, did you have a question? You kind of looked like it was on a tip. So this research plan, this research process is what we need to master during this research process. So just like writing is a process, so is research. We can't do it just the night before, right? Because we can't rely on just internet sources, because we need to triangulate our sources. We need to have internet sources, book sources, and empirical sources. Lastly, we want to assess whether sources are reliable and trustworthy. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's reliable, what's trustworthy with regards to sources. So those are the three things that we'll talk about. Okay, so researchers systematically explore topics. So this word systematically, Spencer, means that we have a plan in place, right? There's a system in place. Using hands-on experience, factual evidence, and secondary sources. So what are secondary sources?
It's like the people talking.
Yeah, it's other people. Yeah, other people talking. So then what's the opposite? Good, good. Primary sources, which means that I personally went out and gathered that data. So primary sources would also be called what kind of research? Good. Empirical. Yeah, you guys got this. Dollar. Okay, number two. Oh, excuse me. First, we have to inquire, right? We gather that information, investigate the issue, and explain it to other people. We gather this information. We start to investigate what's out there, right? So the first thing that we have to do is just start to ask questions. What do you know? What don't you know about your topic? Then we want to advance that knowledge by collecting and analyzing facts. So it's like we have all this data, we have all these sources, now what am I going to do? Right? We have to devise a plan to put all that together. What works best for me, you guys know I love to color code. So I just start to color code my sources. Third, we support an argument. Help persuade others to support your viewpoint. Now, what might confuse us here is that we do have two types of research papers, the argument research paper and the expository research paper. But nevertheless, both of them are trying to convince your audience that you have done the research. Right? So either way, we are supporting an argument. Either way, we're trying to prove that we have gone out and done this research. We're building our ethos, right? Our own credibility. All right, the first step of that research process. So definitely make sure you're on 467 in your books, because it gives us a really nice graph. It gives us a visual of what a research process looks like. So step one, define your research question. So before we can go out and even gather information, we have to come up with a question that we need to answer. This question is your topic and explains specifically what it is you want to go out and find. Khalif, how do you feel? You feel confused?
Oh, great.
Tell me why.
Guess because I'm behind.
Oh, okay.
Taking notes.
That's okay. We'll get you caught up. But basically, what we're saying here is that we need to have a line of inquiry, a line of questions that we want to go out, find answers to. So our question could be, why did the United States fall into recession? Right? If we don't know the answer to that, we can go out and find it through research. Or what was the cause of the government shutdown recently? First time in 17 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we go out and we find out, okay, why did it happen now? Maybe why did it happen then? So write down the exact question that your research will try to answer. So it could be, why do men make more money than women? Excuse me? It's not always true though, right?
You make more money than me.
That's true. I make more money than my husband. I bring home the bacon, he cooks it. Boom. But we want to figure out what it is exactly, right, that I'm going to try to find this answer to. It could be, why do pro ball players become bankrupt? You guys know that, right?
Yes,
A lot of them have to file for bankruptcy because they get all this money, spend $1 million, and then buy a car and house and swimming pool, and then all of a sudden they don't have any money left. So they go bankrupt. Yeah, so you can explore any of these, right? Just write down that question, try to find the answer. Step 2, develop what's called a working thesis. So the reason we call it a working thesis is because it will change over time. We have to come up with a sort of hypothesis of what we think we're going to find. It's also called a hypothesis, right? So your working thesis is your best guess about how you will answer that research question. That best guess.
So what you think you're going to find out.
Right. Exactly. We have to go in thinking that we have a sort of understanding of the topic. Right? So, in one sentence, write down that overall claim about your topic. So you have that research question in one sentence, then the answer to that research question, which will ultimately become that explicit thesis. Step 3, devise a plan. So this is what's really important here. And if you don't write anything down today, let's write down this plan. It's in our textbook, page 469, if it's better for you to look at the textbook. Page 469. We have to develop a plan. How will I tackle all this research? So we devise a research plan before we start to collect sources. Your plan should describe the kinds of sources that you'll need to answer your research question. So if I'm doing a research paper and I'm making a hypothesis that women make less money than men, what kind of research do you think I should do? What kind? Internet, book, library, empirical?
Mostly empirical.
Empirical, absolutely. Internet, maybe. Right? I think I would want to go out and find, past trends, up to equal rights for women and how are we coming out of that? Right? And then I could certainly go around and survey people, couldn't I? I could certainly go around and survey people because it might be a misconception that women make less than men. It might not be true, so I could go around and survey as many women as possible. To say, hey, who makes more, you or your husband? So I would survey maybe only married people. Yeah.
I would go to maybe a big corporation or someone that has a lot of employees.
Yeah.
And try to interview them.
That'd be perfect, wouldn't it? So it'd be interesting because when we do that empirical research, we have to pick the setting, right? So it would be interesting to say if I went into a middle school where there's a bunch of female teachers, right, versus male teachers. So we would get more data there. We have to choose that setting carefully so that it would yield the best results. So let's talk about this plan, these steps that you need to take. First, you have to develop that research question, first and foremost. Secondly, you have to develop that working thesis statement, your hypothesis, what you think you're going to find. So we've got the question, the thesis, results of startup research. So essentially, you can keep a small journal or notes to yourself about what kind of sources am I finding, right? What kind of research am I finding, and how is this startup research reflecting that working thesis? Is it going against my thesis? Is it going with my thesis? Right? So it's like, hey, what am I finding? Maybe I can summarize what I found on the internet, because we just typically go to Google, don't we? Yeah, so what's Google telling me? Next, we have a description of all available sources. So you just make a note to yourself. What kind of sources are available on my topic? So when we're reading these academic journals, these books, we need to determine what kind of research they did, right? So yeah, we can go out and do internet searches, we can go out and do book searches, we can go out and do empirical research, But what kind of research is done in the text that I'm reading? Did they go out and do empirical research? Right, so we need to be mindful of that when we're looking at all of our research that we're collecting. This is really important. The schedule. Yeah.
Is there any way to tell how, where someone got the research from?
Yeah, so you can look at that works cited. So
most books and cited stuff come from other research.
a lot does, yeah, but a lot of people choose to go out and do their own research and publish it in a book. But even if they do their own research, they're still going to rely on all these other sources to help them prove their point. Yeah, but so like what I was telling you all last class, we should steal the works cited pages. If we find an article that's really good and really helpful for us, go back and look at their works cited and start to look up their sources. Because those sources might be able to help you.
So how do we cite ourselves? Like you said, we go out and get information.
You wouldn't cite yourself. So if you did like an interview, then you would cite it as an interview. And you would cite that person. Yeah, we'll get into that our next unit because we'll have to do empirical research in our next paper. But nevertheless, if you decide to do empirical research for this paper, I'll help you. Observations, you don't have to cite. But interviews, so if I interviewed Khalif, I would just put Khalif's name, personal interview, and the date that it happened.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
In the parentheses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And
And on the works cited. So in the parentheses, I would just have interview.
So on the website, you just put.
And then on the works cited, it would say what kind of interview it was. Yeah. Good question. What's that? Okay, so the schedule for conducting and completing the research. So research can be super overwhelming. Really, really overwhelming. So we have to have a plan. Monday, we'll do this. Tuesday, we'll do this. Wednesday, we'll do this. Up until the assignment is due, which we're still a ways from that. So nevertheless, we want to tell ourselves, once we figure out when that paper's due, work backwards from that due date. Say, okay, I've got 10 days to do this research paper. Every day I need to dedicate time to it because it can get so overwhelming.